All right, good morning. Happy Saturday. We are joining live this morning. We're all the way from Canada, who we are so excited to have with us, Natalie from High Heel Diaries. We're just going to wait just a minute while all of our speakers log in, and we have Dr. Alexia joining as well today. And we're here to talk about empowering women to find their voice. I found Natalie on Instagram and just thought she was absolutely amazing. The way she promotes her business, how and empower women. Good morning, beautiful. How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning.
Morning, morning.
Okay. So I was just, starting the conversation, waiting for everybody to come on. Thank you everybody for tuning in this morning first. We have a special guest, Natalie from High Heel Diaries, all the way in Canada joining us. I have followed her for quite some time. We had featured her back on our blog and just find her story so touching and wanting to make a difference and to connect with women in the US because yes, we do have different healthcare systems, which is a whole other topic for Dr. Alexia and Natalie to have later on in the month, but just really coming together to empower one another from all over the country.
Mhm.
Different healthcare systems, different stories. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And what I'd like to do is, Dr. Alexia, if you just want to do a quick intro and then we'll pass the mic over to Natalie and start our conversation.
Sure. So, hey, everybody who's on and who will be joining us and who's catching the replay. I am Dr. Alexia. I am an infectious disease physician, mom, speaker, author, cancer wellness coach, cancer survivor thriver, PAL B2 mutant, and medical director for BRCA Strong. And I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation. Jumped in at the last minute, but when Tracy said we're going to empower women to use their voices in this conversation, I was like, yes,
Mhm.
I'm in, because if you know my story in the beginning, I didn't speak up, I didn't push, I didn't advocate for myself, and there were repercussions for that. So I'm
Mm.
definitely a stand for our sisters, our people out here using their voices to stand up for themselves.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining. We appreciate you jumping on like last minute, but I think these 3 and 4 people that we could have on our Instagram live, is just fantastic. So I figured the more the merrier, and I know Natalie is just a powerhouse, so I figured you'd be perfect part of this group to join. So Natalie, if you want to just start with like a short introduction, tell us a little bit about High Heel Diaries, maybe how it started, and then we can just all feed off each other and ask questions. And obviously, we brought you on to
Yeah.
help us and share with what you do. So I'd love to
Yes,
flip over to you.
for sure. So hello, and Dr. Alexea, so happy to meet you. I've heard so much about you. So
Thank you.
very, very nice to finally meet you. Um, I am Natalie Wilson, and my business is High Heel Diaries. And actually, I have a hard time calling it a business, but you know, it's calling kind of multifaceted because what I do, it really comes from the heart, and it's all about, at the end of the day, being well with your journey, being well with your story, and imparting your knowledge and your wisdom, and your inspiration and empowerment onto others, so that maybe they don't have to go through what all that you went through in order to get to the place that I'm at. So, I'm 47 years old. I'm a certified coach practitioner, motivational and inspirational speaker. Been married for 32 years. I have 3 children. Yes, 21, 16, and 13. I do multiple things, but this hat that I'm wearing right now is the most fulfilling hat that I've ever worn. I'm uh, uh, sorry, I'm a paralegal. I was thinking about the term that, because I know sometimes it's a different term in the States, so I want everybody to understand what it is. I'm a licensed paralegal here, but in between my first days of going to school and now, I've worn many hats, like I said. So I was an interior designer and decorator, ran a business for 12 years. And then I became a makeup artist and beauty consultant with Dior Cosmetics. And then I decided that, after my children were of age and I needed to get back into doing what I love, I went back to school, become a paralegal. My story really is long, but I'm going to just do the Coles Notes version real quickly so that we can get on with the topic of conversation. But my journey really began, I'd say back in 2003, when my sister was shot and killed. So the gun violence here in Canada is I would say it's present, but it's not as bad as it is in the States. Um, we're not able to carry firearms. Well, no one's allowed to carry firearms illegally, but it's not as easy to go and purchase a firearm as it is, I'd say, in the States. Nonetheless, the gun violence is still bad, and my sister lost her life by gun violence. So that got the ball rolling, with me learning how to deal with struggles in life. And before, I was always that emotional person. I said, I don't want to know what it's going to be like to have to go through something like that. But I did, and I learned that I was stronger than I thought I was. Then I lost an uncle to brain tumor and a grandfather, but that was kind of in preparation, for my biggest journey and struggle, which was my breast cancer. And that came in 5 months after my son was born in 2008, a second diagnosis in 2016, and a third diagnosis 2 months after that. So three diagnoses within 8 years. I've had a double mastectomy with reconstruction, a lot of problems. I've had 22 surgeries to date. Have to praise God that I'm still here. And what I learned throughout that process was that, I need to learn how to advocate. I needed to learn how to advocate more for myself, that, I'm stronger than I think, although it's okay to not be okay. Um, and that, if you don't advocate for yourself, the information can pass by you. And if you don't ask the questions, if you don't bring people with you to help you ask those questions, you might end up in a situation that you may not have end up in. So I've learned to now speak and share my story and my journey so that others don't have to go through what I went through in order to be at the place I am now. And that's where High Heel Diaries started. And High Heel Diaries is a way to inspire and empower and have other women share their stories so other women know that, hey, you know what, I'm not alone. And although that sometimes is a cliche, term, you're not alone, I think a lot of women, when they're going through their struggles, they truly do feel like they're alone. So starting a social media platform in order to share not only mine, but other stories, information that I learned, share my ups and downs with this, just puts it out there to say, hey, you know what? I'm human, and I'm sharing with you what I went through, but yet still, I'm still standing, right? So that's where High Heel Diaries comes about. It's multifaceted. I do many things with it, but speaking and being positive and empowering others to be well with their bodies, to be well with their journey, to own their journey is what I love doing.
Well, thank you so much. As we've spoken over the time, you coming on and just being honest and real and sharing, the ups and downs in life. And the other night, Dr. Alexia and I did, real talk, real changes, because it's important to share the ups and downs, whether we want to share them with the general public or not. We all started this for a reason, right? We want our voices to be heard. And by doing that, sometimes it puts us in a different state of mind, maybe brings us some clarity, maybe, makes us a little angry at the situation. And I know sometimes it's overwhelming, but just sharing, making those points, I think, is so important. And, we talk about empowering one another. It's for the positive and the negative. You have to see the real life. Like, it's
Absolutely.
real changes.
Yeah.
So, one thing that really stuck out to me on your page is empowering women to find their voice. A lot of us have voices and don't want to be heard. Me personally, I have a voice. I want to be heard, but there's certain things that I pull back on from sharing, whether it's sharing with my better half, whether it's sharing with Dr. Alexia or somebody on my board or my family. But, having that and really letting your voice be heard. And when we came up with this topic, when we were just on a basic conversation one day, I was like, I want women to hear out there why it's so important to share your voice and to be heard.
Yeah.
Because if we're not heard, there's never going to be a change. Like, we talk about the psychological aspect and the healing. Yesterday I had a call with an ovarian cancer and a research program on healing. It's not FDA, it's not FDA, it's not clinical trials. It's a research program on how women who go through this one is for ovarian cancer, or whether it's breast cancer, any kind of cancer, that mind, body, and soul is all together and helps us heal through our journeys.
Yeah. And I think this is the thing, is that a lot of people feel that once you've healed physically from cancer, then you're okay. Not necessarily yourself, but a lot of people look at you and they see, because I'd say about 2 weeks after all my surgeries, I would pretty much look like this, because I really believe in getting yourself together, because look good, feel better. I believe in that whole concept. But far too often when people see that, they think you're okay. But what they have to know is that this cancer journey never goes away. You just learn how to deal with it. You kind of amalgamate it into your life, and you learn how to deal with it. You learn how to deal with the ups and downs of it better, right? But not everybody can deal with it as another person. And that's where the mental health support and the resources come into play. And, just this community that we have, the three of us sitting here right now, sharing our voices with, the women that are on here, someone is going to walk away with, some positivity, and they're going to turn around and share that with somebody else. Whether it's the education piece, the inspirational piece, the empowerment piece, they're going to learn one tool or two to learn how to get through their journey, right? And so that's why it's so important to speak. And as much as you think your voice might be little, you have to understand that your voice, you might be one in, how many millions of women, but your voice can empower and push through to somebody else to help them get through their struggle. And that's why I push through and do what I do.
You know, as we're starting talking about our program, sorry, ladies, my eyes are tearing really bad, so I'm not crying.
It's okay to cry.
Oh, listen, if I have to, I will let it out. I have no problem. um, what gave you, and then maybe Dr. Alexia, you want to bounce off a little bit of what she's going to say, but like, what gave you that positive side of you? Like Dr. Alexia on the call said, basically, like she looks forward to spending days with Kennedy, who's her daughter, and it gave her more time with her cancer cells, but at the same time, she got more time with her daughter to do things. So that gave you the positivity. So on your side, is it your past trauma? Is it your cancer diagnosis? Like, what gave you that want to empower and be that voice?
Well, like I said, I have girls, and not only my two natural born children, but I have a stepdaughter who's 34. So I've always had, my husband, I've been together 32 years. So I've always had young women in my life, whether it's my stepdaughter, my niece who's 27, my daughters. And why wouldn't I want them to be strong and, empowered women? And although I was going through what I was going through, in back of my head, I always knew I had to pull through and push through for them. I needed them. And it's not that I faked the funk. I never, pretended that I was okay if I wasn't. I let them see the vulnerable side of me. I let them see how difficult this was. But I think what was more was that they saw me overcome it. And that's what I try to teach them, is that you're going to have struggles in life. I want them to know that. I want them to have struggles in life. You know why? Because that's the only way that you can persevere, and that's how you build your resiliency. Like how, God didn't put us here to just skate through life and everything be okay, right? You need to be challenged in order to grow. And so that's what really pushed me. My son was 5 months old when I was first diagnosed. And yes, I really wasn't thinking about anything else but, okay, well, how do we get rid of this? How do we maneuver past this? I chose to get rid of both of my breasts. And I think my mission was to get those breasts back. And I was so focused on that. But throughout the years, I went through those stages of healing, and I realized that the physical being was not really truly my end goal. My end goal was just to be okay within, and to know that whether or not I have this, these breasts, I'm still beautiful. And I also use that because I do a lot of body image photography interviews and stuff like that, because I want to show that regardless of what your body looks like, you need to be well with it and be okay with it. And especially if it's part of your journey, if you were given a certain body type because of your journey, you have to own it.
Yes.
You have to just own it. It is what it is. Your scars are a map out of your journey, and you need to love it, and you need to be okay with it. It is going to take you time to get there. I'm not going to say I always looked at my body and loved it, but it's going to take time to get there. And I try to teach my girls that. And that's why I'm so open and liberal with it. Like, I literally, my kids were like, Mom, put some clothes on, please.
We just had this conversation.
Right? Yeah. So, and it's for all the women out there, because social media can be a great thing, but it can also be used for, some really messed up purposes. And I really want the young girls out there to know that, listen, you don't gotta just be showing your tail and showing your breast off just for attention. If you're gonna do it, let the message be something that's worthwhile,
I think
right?
that's one of the biggest things on social media. And
Hmm.
for me, obviously, as the founder of a nonprofit, it's very disturbing and it can hurt a lot of us. And a lot of us process everything different. And me, I stand over here as like the founder of Bronca Strong, but nobody really knows what's going on within us. And when we go
Hmm.
on social media, we're seeing girls just post their breasts with like eating pizza in a bathtub. I don't find that there's a purpose to us. What
Hmm.
are First, I think that it's 50-50, right? You're hurting because you're seeing something that you maybe want or don't have. And then at the same time, it's like we're not bringing awareness, right? That's by showing our breasts, we're not, and not even on social media and anywhere, we are not bringing awareness and we're not helping our community.
Right.
Really helping our community is
Right.
posting your quotes, posting everything, like sharing really what it is within, like your battles within. You said, accepting your new body, like
Right.
physically, that takes time, you
Hmm.
know, my journey began 6 years ago. I never thought I'd be where I am now and saying to myself, like, I'm having the hardest time accepting my new normal. I have one
Yep.
breath. I share with everybody, I keep super with me, but when we talk about empowering, let's really empower.
Yeah.
Let's send the right message.
Exactly. And I think it's like mixed messages almost out there with women. It's, we want to be strong. We want to have our voices heard. We want, all this, female liberation and whatnot. But again, we put ourselves out, not, no, some of us put ourselves out there, and it's just men are looking at us as in, okay, you want this, but then you're doing that, right? You're putting your body out there for everybody to look at and gaze at and lust after, but yet we want to be respected, and we want, to be in places of influence. And how are you going to do that when you're putting yourself in such a light, right? If you're going to be physical on social media and show your body, let there be a message. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've had there was an article out where I was fully nude on the top, apart from my hands on my breast. What was the message? It was about owning your scars and loving your scars, because you saw the scars underneath my breast, right? It wasn't, hey, well, look at me,
Right,
look at my body, because hey, my I'm not saying my body is horrible, but my body's nothing really to look at to say, hey, wow, lust after her.
right.
That's for my partner, if you will.
Yeah.
But put the right message out there, and then don't complain about it if you're not getting the response that you expect to get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use our voices and use them properly. And I always say that it starts young. It starts as children. It starts in the schools. It starts in the home. And you have to be an example, right? Um, Teach your children to know that their voice matters. Teach your children to encourage their friends to know that their voice matters. And let them make sure that they reflect on their personal ideas and views. Encourage them, right? Because when you reflect on it, and it's not just something that you see on social, but you truly reflect on it and understand it, you can better put across what you're trying to promote.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up, doing this in childhood. This is always
Hmm.
in in my house. My niece used to live with us, and her and Kennedy are a few years apart. And they would be playing and play fighting and tickling and taunting each other and stuff like that. And it would always be this thing about a stop or a no, And my niece's mom would get upset, and she'd be like, Kennedy wants to play, but then she doesn't want to stop or whatever. And I'm like, listen, this is a lesson to be learned, and something
Hmm.
we have to teach our children. Um, Somebody's no is their no. Somebody's stop.
Yes.
Stop. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's a prank, if it's tickling, if it's play fighting, if it's a pillow fight,
Yep.
right? Our children need to know that, and women need to know this, but we only build this if we're lucky in our childhood.
Hmm.
Um, that that strength and that courage to make somebody honor your word or your request, your
Mm-hmm.
autonomy for your own body. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was explaining to my niece's mom, I'm like, listen, like the same way Kennedy is able to say what she needs to say and have control over her own body and what she wants and doesn't want,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, yours has to learn that for her, but also respect other people's boundaries. You know,
Mm-hmm.
somebody
Mm-hmm.
stop. Is there no and stop? Because if we don't teach our children this, they
Yes.
become adolescents, teenagers, young adults, full
Yes.
grown adults who don't respect people's autonomy for their own body.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, it's problematic. And
Yeah.
so for so long, I was so passive and didn't have a voice and
Mm-hmm.
didn't, give that no or that stop for myself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or didn't push for when I needed to make somebody say yes to something
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted or needed, like my
Yeah.
mastectomy or like my genetic testing or counseling, right?
Right.
That when I was told no, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't used to pushing, because I was so accustomed to being passive and just accepting things that
Yes. Mm-hmm.
these things are problematic, and these things show up in every area of your life. They show up
Absolutely.
at school, they show up at work, they show up at the doctor's office, they show up in your
Yeah.
relationships.
In your
And
relationships, yes.
if you don't learn
Mm-hmm.
to say no, stop, to push for yes, to advocate for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have people tramping all over us, and it, it
Mm-hmm.
it shows up in every aspect of our life, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no single aspect of our life that is separate from our health and well-being,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in our
Absolutely.
relationship with our parents, our children, our friends, our family, our coworkers, our healthcare providers. It's in every relationship in your life. And so I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you went back to how you're showing up for your children and how you
Yeah.
are empowering them just
Yeah.
by how you're being. And we can do it with full out intention and sit down and talk and teach the lesson, or
Yeah.
we can model that behavior. We can model self acceptance. We can model self empowerment and how we empower one another.
Yes.
The work that we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that it affects all areas of your life because, in essence, if you're that person that doesn't know how to say no, that is within your core. So therefore, it delves off and affects you in your personal relationships, in your work life, in your friendship, and like you said, you're in your advocating. And I have to dial back and say that as a youth, I always had a big voice. I was always very, very strong and opinionated. My mom and I butt heads all the time because I was very, I'm an emotional person, but because of that, I felt strongly about all of my beliefs and all of my thought process. I was always very, very, very strong about that. And even when it came to, and I think, that had served me well in my cancer diagnosis because I asked a lot of questions and the doctors looked annoyed. I didn't care if you were annoyed. I'm going to come prepared and I'm going to make notes and, ask 101 questions. Like I'm not just a number. And I needed the doctor to understand that. And I have a doctor that he piloted a program that he helps to teach doctors and other healthcare providers, like nurses, on how to be more empathetic with their patients. And I had a minute with him the other day because I was going through a scare, and I had a lump. And it's because we're doing the virtual phone calls or the telephone phone calls, the telephone follow-ups. And he was really short with me. And here I am. It was 2 weeks that I was waiting for the result to come back. And he was like, very quick. We've got to go. And I was like, but wait. I said, I've been waiting 2 weeks for this answer. And you're going to give me a 2-minute phone call and say, okay, I'm done. No, that's not okay. I want to talk more. I have questions to ask, right? You put this program together, then perhaps you should follow it. Right.
Yeah.
And you have to speak up. And a lot of times I get fight. My husband, he's the opposite. He's very like introverted and he doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't speak up, but I'm the bulldog and I'll come in and I'll take over the conversation because I have questions and answers that need I need to have to hear. And, not everybody has that voice. And that's why those that do have it, I think we need to help those that don't encourage them to speak up, but teach them the tools on how to do so. Because once again, it's something that's either within you or not. So if you're not naturally that person, how do you learn how to be that person?
Well, we have a
Right?
question. Are you ready for this? This ties in perfect.
Yeah.
It says, how would you encourage young women that have lost the ability to have children and have lost their breasts and try to date? So how about I let you answer that? And then I'm sure Dr. Alexia and myself can touch on that, but
Mm-hmm.
let's have you do it.
So how do we encourage, let's recap that question again. How do we encourage?
It says, how would you encourage young women that have lost the ability to have children and have
Mm-hmm.
lost their breast and try to date?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I'm only going to talk about how I would address that because I'm totally not in that situation. Um, I don't find that uh, you have men that are very superficial. Yes, you have women that are very superficial. But I think if you kind of come across as not come across, but truly show your heart before you show your body, someone will fall in love with you that way, and then your body won't matter at the end of the day. And that the right man will be, there for you and love you regardless of whether or not you can have the children or whether or not you have breasts. Because at the end of the day, there are other ways to carry a relationship. There are other ways to be aroused apart from having breasts. I mean, there's way. Yes, you have to learn them once you've lost your breast. Sometimes it's a learned process, but sometimes you don't know things until you're put into that situation. But I would say never shortchange yourself, never sacrifice certain things with regards to what you will accept in a man simply because I don't have breasts or I've had, a mastectomy. You're never less than a woman because of that. Always remember that first and foremost. And, let them pass by. There's a ton of men out there. There's a ton of women out there. You will find the right one. So don't ever sacrifice and don't ever settle, right? Keep the same, requirements, keep the same morals and rules that you would if you were able to have children and if you were physically the same as you were prior to having breast cancer and lost your breast. Don't ever let that go because that is you and the right person will come around and love you for who you are.
For the dating part of it, as a provider, I could speak. 6 months after my mastectomy, I decided to get a divorce. I chose it, best thing I've ever done in my life, and said to myself, like, how am I going to move forward? I have 2 scars that are across my chest. I have nipples. What am I going to do? Like, how am I ever going to fathom to go out there and go on a date, right? Our world's crazy enough, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm going to have to do. And I just kind of went with what my heart said. And when the time was right, like you said, you're going to meet the right person. And
Mm-hmm.
here I was working out in the gym and doing push-ups 2.5 years ago. And he looked at me and he's like, you're a beast. And I'm like, oh my God, who is this? Like right in front of my face in gym, sweating.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years later, he's stuck by my side. I've had 3 surgeries. I've lost an implant. I'm super blessed, and now I am crying that I
Mm-hmm.
to find somebody to love me and try to
Mm-hmm.
feel as
Mm-hmm.
beautiful as he thinks I am.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
obviously, as you faced 22 surgeries, Dr. Alexia's faced surgeries, and I faced 10 surgeries, don't ever discredit yourself.
Yeah, no.
And if they're meant to be in your life, they'll be there and support you through thick and thin. Like he showers me, he does everything. Like
Oh, sweet. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have had it better. So don't ever discredit yourself
Yeah.
and know that when the right person's there, you'll meet them and truly look at yourself. And I tell myself it's temporary
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I push through my story right now,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And that right person will make you just feel so beautiful. Like we'll say the right things and just make you feel so awesomely beautiful
Yeah.
that to the point where like you're like, what who is this person? Right? So look for that. And if they don't make you feel that way, then they're not the right one for you.
And
Because especially in an early part of a relationship, that's when they're most, attracted and they give you the most compliments. So if it's not happening in the beginning, trust me, it's not going to happen later. Right?
And you couldn't have set up better because, like, when I met him, I was fine. Like, I didn't have any complications. Everything was great, And then here I was working out in the gym and I tore my pec muscle. Whoever knew that in 2 years I would have three surgeries, facing a fourth one coming up? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, ever since I can remember, like, he's like, this doesn't define you. I love you just the way you are. And if you had no breasts, I'd love you the same. Like, if
See?
you have one, like, it doesn't matter, like, we kind of make it a joke now with my knitted knocker. We don't leave home without it,
Yeah.
But like those are the things, and that's the support that you really need.
Yeah. And you have to give those men a medal too, It's like I think about that. It's like it, there there's so many women out there that they can honestly choose from.
Mhm.
And and you have to appreciate a man that can look at you and agree that nothing's wrong with us at all. But there's the women out there that are voluptuous, that have an awesome body, whatever it is, whatever they call awesome, and they can go for that if they so choose to. But it speaks mounds about them and their character, that they love you first for whom you are, and your body is second.
Yeah,
Right?
Exactly.
Your body really is just a shell at the end of the day.
exactly.
Hmm.
Relationships exist in conversation, right?
Hmm.
And we so forget that. We get so hung up on, my breast got cut off, or I got
Hmm.
reconstruction, but I don't have nipples.
Hmm.
I had to have a hysterectomy. I can't have babies. But
Hmm.
you don't meet a person and they talk to zoom in on your breast, or immediately decide to have babies with you, because that's not where the relationship exists. That's not where the relationship starts or
Hmm.
ends. It's the relationship exists in the conversation, and then
Hmm.
everything else is a wonderful
Right.
bonus, right?
Right. Hmm.
But it's not that you're not allowed or not worthy or deserving of a relationship because you can't physically bear children, right?
Hmm.
We get so hung up on, our fertility via ovaries and the uterus, but there's so many other ways in which we can produce and be fertile in the
Hmm.
world, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
just who we are, how we show up for our family, our friends, and the people whose lives we enrich with our presence. What are we doing in our passion work, our purpose,
Yes.
career,
Yes.
right? That is a way in which you are producing and being fertile in a
Hmm.
relationship, right? How are you all fertilizing one another, right? Are you in a
Absolutely.
the person who is encouraging you to grow and evolve, or
Hmm.
is it someone who just wants you to be stagnant because they're focused on your boobs and your ability
Right. Yeah.
to pop out or not pop out?
Yeah. Yeah. What about here? Right. What about here?
Growing
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
evolving together, because people enter relationships or marriages expecting the person to never change, and that doesn't work. um, and so we have to focus on the love, we have to focus on commitment, and we just have to focus on also enjoying the moment. Just get out there and date, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I've been on a couple of dates recently, and I remember when my relationship ended, I just kind of thought like, well, who is gonna love me now? I don't have boobs. I'm in menopause. I'm having hot flashes. My hair is not as long as it used to be. But I had to remind myself of what I already know. Like, we don't
What
show
you bring
up
to the
to
table.
dates
Hmm.
naked, showing our nipples, or like, I don't know, showing our hormone levels. I'm fertile, y'all, and that's never even once.
Right.
As a woman, as a person with a uterus and ovaries, right? Not every one of us wants to even bear children, right? Because there's so
Hmm.
much other things we can,
Right.
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
world, so much more to us than
Hmm.
our ability to fill a bra,
Oh,
breastfeed, nurse a baby, push out a baby, or whatever.
yes.
And the definition of motherhood is not even that you have to birth or push out a baby, if you're choosing to or desiring to ultimately become a mom.
Hmm.
And it's 2021. You don't have to have a husband, a spouse, a male partner, or whatever to do any of those
No.
things, right? So
Hmm.
just be who you are, be your authentic self, and the
Hmm.
person who exists to not just love you, but be in relationship with you, to be in conversation with you, be present with you,
Hmm.
learn, grow, support you, and to, just be love in action.
Yeah.
They're out there somewhere. They'll find you, but you got to date anyway
Yeah.
to know, like, what do you really want? You know, after I divorced a couple of years back, I um I remember like starting to date, and I learned very quickly, like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, this guy brought something amazing to the table. I didn't even know I like that, you
Yeah.
know? So you have to even just go out there and do those things. Cannot enter into or accept every date or ask, we gotta ask two ladies, ask somebody out on a date um,
Mm-hmm.
with it in mind that this person is gonna be your future, your everything, your all. You can't just be like, oh my god, I snagged the fish. I gotta hold on to this one because I might
No. Oh,
because I don't have nipples in the uterus or whatever,
yes.
right? Because you learn a lot in dating, not just about that person, but about yourself, what you like, what you want, what you don't want.
Absolutely.
Get out there. Don't worry about
Yeah.
them boobs or that aesthetic flat closure, whatever you're working with, food,
Mm-hmm.
flaps, whatever, it's fine. And at the end of the day, the right man, he doesn't care that much, or the right woman, she doesn't care that much because
Yeah.
they're not dating your boobs or your chest wall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you touched on so many aspects there, Dr. Alexia. I mean, I'm coming from someone who's been with, one man since 16, 32 years. I'm 47 now. Um, we talked about growth and how sometimes you learn about what you want and what you don't want, and what you like and what you don't like. You know, um, you have to grow, right? And you can't expect people to change. But I also learned what I like and what I don't like, and it's okay. And I'm not criticizing my husband at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I've learned to grow in my relationship, right? And learn to know what's important and what's not so important. And your comment about how are we fertilizing each other is so very good, because it's not only about our relationships with the opposite sex, or our intimate relationships, but our friendships too, right? I've learned to let go of certain friends, and some certain friends, it just naturally happened that way, because I feel that I grew so much, because I was sharing and giving, and I changed in such positive ways. I wasn't stagnant, and some females are just still so stagnant in their ways of thinking and non-growth. And sometimes I believe it's a fear thing. People are so um, connected to the way they are. We're creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
We are complacent people, and you're comfortable in that zone. And I try to encourage females, and those women that have stayed around and have grown with me, I so applaud you, right? And those who have slowly just gone their own way, hey, do your thing, right? But I've put myself in positions. This is what I encourage women to do: is to speak your voice and put yourself in positions, in roles of influence. Join groups, join society, different areas of society where you can have a voice, and where you can speak and you can be heard and influence others. And the moment you do that, and you know that you are making a change, that empowers you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you will continue to want to use your voice. And that's why I encourage, like, join groups, even young children, like, join your school community council, join different societies in school. Be present, both your professional and your personal life, right? And don't ever believe that your voice is minuscule, because, like I said, if one person's hearing you, it's not minuscule, because if you can make a change in one person's life, then
Right.
then at the end of the day, that will trickle into multiple people,
That's right. We forget about
right?
our ripple effect.
Right, definitely. So, we gave a lot of information, I feel, for this woman who's looking for advice on the dating situation, right? You got a little information about dating, got a little information about how you need to be about yourself, and to respect and love, and don't ever change you for anybody.
Right.
No, I definitely really enjoyed coming on and sharing, why we need to hear our voice. And I think that we
Mm-hmm.
touched base on several different aspects of it that maybe what the three of us should plan to do is do like a Zoom call with women
Mm-hmm.
and hear other women's voices and see what else we need in our community. Like maybe
Yeah.
this is a teaching class. Like Natalie, maybe you want to come on and we can get like 20 women on a call and just
Mm-hmm.
all from like the different reasons on why our voices need to be heard, why empowerment's so important. I mean, anybody can write, we're here to empower women,
Yeah.
but what's your theory behind it? And I think having a theory, look, you're in a relationship for 32 years. I went through a divorce. Dr. Alexia went through a divorce, but like we're all still
I went
one.
through a near divorce.
You
So,
know,
yeah.
Yeah.
so you know what it's like. We know what it's to go through body changes, but like really make sure that these women are understanding what it is to empower. Because we can
Mm-hmm.
all look at the definition, but really taking that to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what our community needs, right? We need more Instagram lives and Facebooks and Zooms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're sometimes time consuming or don't want to jump on a Saturday, but like really being heard to make other women. I mean, we've had several women on the call this morning, lots of questions. I hope that from the 25 women that were on, three of them just walk
Mm-hmm.
away with a piece of advice. And that was really, that's our purpose, right? Is
Yeah.
to give advice and share and maybe even talk about, like I said, doing a class. I think it'd be a phenomenal resource
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what we can do. And your story has brought so much inspiration. I saw a lot of women's comments and, still getting on this call and smiling and still
Mm-hmm.
empowering other women. You kicked breast cancer's ass 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
are still standing. You've gone through a lot of tragic, experiences in your life, and you're still here saying to us, right?
Yeah.
Your voices need to be heard. Like, and as I say that, I have goosebumps running down our arms because we need more women. And it doesn't mean come on social media, journal it, write it, like whatever that outlet is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I sit in nature and write, or listen to music, find that outlet to help yourself and continue to empower yourself. Because Dr. Cherie one time told me, Dr. Cherie Fuentes in Chicago, lymphedema breast cancer survivor, until you can empower yourself, you can't empower others.
Yeah.
And every day when I wake up, that sits with me. And if I don't feel that I can empower somebody, I post a quote because it's reality. It's real.
Mm-hmm. 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 And that's so true. And and what also comes with that is that, we hear all the time, you're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong. Yes, I appreciate that, right? But I think what I want people to understand more than that is that I'm strong because then I can admit when I'm not strong,
Yeah.
right? I can admit when I'm vulnerable and not having a good moment or a good time. And I post a lot of quote. I do a grid. So I do a quote and then a photo of something, a quote. And so my quotes are either usually something I've felt before, because something I felt before, something I know someone's going through, something I'm feeling currently, but they're always for empowerment. Because even if I'm not feeling good, it doesn't mean I want to stay in that place or I'm trying to say, hey, you know what, it's a dark time and I'm trying to put a dark cloud on everybody. I'm trying to show that even if you're trying to push through, and even if you're in a a role of positivity, understand that you're going to have dark moments, and it's okay because it's part of the healing process.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through them at different times, right? There's no first this and second that and next this. You're going to go through it at different times. It took me, a good 10 years to go through my healing journey to get at that end place where I was better able to speak my truth and speak to people and give back, right? It took me that length of time. And I didn't know until I read a paper by Dr. Gail Goodwin that there's there's stages and there's names to these stages. And when I looked at them and I read them, I was like, shoot, I was going through that at such and such a time. Oh, when I did this and when I was going through that, I was going through this stage. You know what I mean? So, be responsible for your own feelings, understand them, and make sure that people respect that. Like if you're going through a dark time, make sure people say, you know what, hey, you make sure let them know that, hey, I'm dealing with something right now. I need a moment. Because unless I'm okay, y'all not going to be okay. my kid's not going to be okay. My husband's not going to be okay because I know I'm going to be a tyrant. And I can admit that. And I've been that, right? And yeah, I've had to give many apologies because and I'm okay with that, right? But it's important to be self-aware, to have clarity about your values and align them with your behaviors as well. Because you can have these values and talk about these values, but if you're turning around doing something totally different, then what's it all for, right?
Yeah.
So I really feel that there's ways to empower women because I'm sure a lot of women want to be at a different place. They want to be strong and they want to have their voice, but it's got to start with some things. And I would say if you're in a home where you're stagnant and your voice can't be heard, start with making financial decisions, start with making family decisions, go be a part of the school parent council, be a part of something where your voice can be heard. And when you feel that feeling of empowerment, you will want to do so much more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for tuning in. I love this Saturday empowerment, and I definitely want to. I know Dr. Alexia and Natalie have a call coming up. I will not be on. Super excited. U.S. Canadian healthcare versus
Yes.
U.S. healthcare versus Canadian healthcare. Exactly. Right. I hope everybody has a fantastic Saturday. I sure learned a lot, shared my emotions with you guys. Thanks.
Oh, awesome. I'm the same way. That's why I'm wearing my glasses to hide. No, I'm joking.
It's funny.
You
I would
know,
have my glasses on and I'm like, there's like the
yeah,
light is here. So I'm like, let me just
yeah,
take them off. But it's
yeah.
okay. I started with my
Cry it out, girl. I'm so that way too.
started
It's
with my
important.
meeting, had a hot flash, took it off. I'm like, it's just the ladies. We got this.
Yeah.
And then what
I know. All right,
Okay,
ladies.
Tracy, thank you for having this platform for us. And Dr. Alexia, it was really great to meet you. Look forward to our upcoming conversation in June.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch and let's plan some more programs. And it was great seeing both of you ladies. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your family.
Thank you, you too.
Taking
Bye.
care of you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.